So you think you can't start your own wedding cake business? I'm going to tell you how I started my wedding cake business with $72. Hi, I'm Jenny, and I teach wedding cake makers how to be better business owners. Thanks for being here. All right, today's video is going to be a little bit different than my weekly tips, and I did want to tell this story because I think that so many people think that you either have to have a lot of money or a lot of other capital or a lot of other support to start a business, and you actually don't. So I'm going to tell you my story. Okay, so this goes back probably around 29 years ago. I was a dental assistant at the time, and I always loved to cook. I always loved to entertain, and I had friends over for dinner. And the woman, her name was Linda, she never eats anything. She was known for like never eating. And she was a tiny little thing. And I adored her. And she was eating this dessert that I was making. It was a white chocolate fruit tart. And she was eating this dessert. She's like, oh my gosh, you have to come make these for the restaurant that I work at. And I'm like, well, I don't really do that. I'm a dental assistant and I'm at school at night studying business. So anyway, she talked me into talking to the owner of the restaurant. So I go down. Now, I don't tell him that this is not what I do. I don't tell him that I'm a dental assistant. I don't tell him any of that. I just kind of fake it. So I go down and meet with him, and I bring him a list of 10 desserts. Now, 10 of which I had made before, I mean, 5 of which I had made before, and the other 5 I kind of made up in my head. So we have a little meeting before I'm on my way to my dental assisting job. We have a little meeting, and he's like, oh, this sounds great. I want to try 5 of these. I said, okay, I would like to try them too because I never have. So I go to work, and then on my way home, I go to Sam's Club, and I have, I think, like $102 in my checking account. I spend 72 on it on ingredients that I know that I'm going to need. So somewhere in my life, I have taken a picture of all the ingredients. They were sitting there on the floor, and I took a picture, and I said to myself, like, just in case this works out, I want to know, like, I want to tell people this is how I started. So this is so funny that I still can't find that picture. I'll have to find it. So anyway, I go home and I make all the desserts after my job. So I'm up all night making all these desserts. And then the next day on my way to work, I meet with him. I drop off the desserts, and he's like, oh my gosh, these are all wonderful. When can you start? So that was the start of my wholesale baking business. Totally faked it, you guys. I totally faked it. So what I did is I figured out what I needed to do to have my kitchen approved and things like that so that I could actually bake out of where I was. I was just in a home. It was right out of my home in New Hampshire at the time. So I did that every week for a long time. I think it lasted like a year and a half. So while I was doing that, all of my friends knew that I did that. And one of my good high school friends, well, they have this couple, they were getting ready to get married. Her name is Nancy, and she's like, hey, Jenny, would you make our wedding cake? And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to make your wedding cake, but I don't know how. So what I did is from that point, I already knew how to bake. I already knew all those things, but I've never made a wedding cake before. And this is before the internet. This is before YouTube videos. This is before, all the other resources that you could find out how to do this. So what I did is I started buying books of famous wedding cake makers like Sylvia Weinstock and Rosie Levenbaum and people like that were known for this. So Martha Stewart books I bought, and I taught myself how to make a wedding cake. I didn't have any of the materials. Again, this is before Amazon. You couldn't just order stuff off of Amazon. I would drive around looking for restaurant supply places to buy materials at and things like that, like spatulas and all the things that I needed. I didn't even have a turntable at the time. I literally had nothing. So my first wedding cake was for my friends, and again, I will find the picture and post the picture somewhere. I still have it. But I did not know what I was doing. It was all from books. I would sit in my backyard and sit in the sun and read these books in between work and in between school. I was in school at night. In between school on how to make a wedding cake, I would practice. And just making the making the buttercream smooth, which was the hardest part, and things like that. So that's how I did that part. So from that wedding, I was at their wedding. Obviously, it was my friends. So from that wedding, people were like, oh my God, this cake is great. I ended up getting another wedding cake referral. So my first meeting, my first ever consultation with somebody that was not a friend was I was living in this tiny little apartment. I was baking out of the second floor with this gas oven that was just like my apartment would get like 700 degrees. It was insane. I was doing all these wholesale desserts, still in school, still working as a dental assistant. And I had a wedding cake consultation at my home. Now, I did not know what I was doing. I was just running on my gut and my instincts, and I just, acted professional. I took the lead. And so I answered the door, and I had a golden retriever at the time. So I answered the door, and my golden retriever runs out the door. And I don't want to act, non-professional, so I just let him go because I don't want to be like, oh my god, that's my beloved golden retriever. So as I'm holding this meeting, and again, I'm taking the lead, I am acting like, yes, I am the best wedding cake maker in the world, you have to hire me. Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head, right? But what I'm really thinking is like, oh my god, my dog's probably dead, it's pouring rain, like I can't believe this. So anyway, it was a great meeting. They ended up hiring me. They left, I opened the door and my golden retriever was right there. So it was a happy ending. So that was my first official wedding cake. And then from that point, I just started talking about it. When I was at work, people knew that's what I did. And then people were coming in. I would have friends that came into the dental office. And, I had a couple of people hire me from there. And I ended up doing their wedding. And then I also did special occasion cakes at the time. So I really just got a lot of practice and started reading and started studying on how to get better. And I would practice making sugar flowers and things like that. Just literally from nature, I would take a flower from outside of my garden and then bring it inside and try to duplicate it out of gum paste and things like that. Like, literally just bought the things that I needed at the time for every job. And I started building a name for myself from nothing. I didn't have a storefront. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. So then when I moved to the next house that I was living in, with my husband, who's not my ex-husband, we converted this breezeway into a commercial kitchen. It was not even a room. It was literally a connection from the house to the garage. It had a stone floor. There was no insulation. I had a refrigerator out there. I had an oven. I had a work table. The lighting was terrible. But that's where I did all my baking. And I started booking wedding cake jobs, and our house was really cute, so I was able to have consultations out of my, right in my home. I mean, I had to put my dog somewhere else and things like that. And this, it started taking off, but at this time I still didn't have a website. I didn't have any marketing really, to market more. But I remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't want to be big, but I want to be really good. I want it to be really high quality, and I want it to stay small, and I want it to have really great service. And that's what I knew in the very, very beginning. So one thing led to another. I ended up meeting this woman. Her name was Susan. She was the marketing director for Lindt Chocolate. She was also a patient at the dental office. So all these connections, guys, this comes in handy. This is why you want to start talking to people. And I hired her to help me with my branding, and I spent a lot of money. This goes back, again, like 20, 27, 28 years. At the time, it was $3,000 that I spent. And what we did, we brought in a photographer. She helped me with my marketing. Like, she helped me pick out a font. She helped me with all that, my branding. And I still have the font that she used today, I still use it today. And she helped me with that first. What we did is we created a postcard. And with that postcard, because I didn't have anything, I didn't have a storefront or anything, I was able to portray my image with that. So I was very, very careful about what I wanted to show people, because that's what I wanted to attract. And that's how I wanted to, be known. So from there, now that's really only the big money I spent. Everything else, all the equipment I bought, used at, used equipment places. They're all over the place. I just bought things as I needed them. I did not take on any debt. I did not take on any loans or anything like that. This was strictly out of my home. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still, again, working. I think I slowed down to part-time at this point, because I knew I wanted to make the transition into just doing this bakery thing. So, and I was still going to school for business at night. And I'm thinking, if the whole baking thing didn't take off, then at least I'd have my business degree to fall back on. So I just kept going, and I didn't think about what would happen if I failed. I just kept going. So then I met this woman who inquired about a wedding cake, and she was a graphic designer. So we bartered for my first ever website. She made my website. I made her wedding cake, and we worked together, and it was perfect. There was zero money exchanged, and they became friends. I mean, they're a wonderful, wonderful couple. And that was my first website. So from that website, I just started getting more business, and then I started making up more, again, marketing materials that were tangible, because again, like, I didn't have a storefront, and that was big at the time. So if at this time home businesses were not very popular, so if you were a home business, you kind of weren't, people didn't really take you seriously, and especially if you're a girl and you're a baker and it's a home business, people are like, what's your full-time job? So as I went on, I was able to, now, mind you, this would be a day for me. So I would wake up, get desserts to the restaurant, go to work at my dental assisting job, go to school at night. I literally study. It was terrible, the things I used to do. I would like study with my notes on my steering wheel driving to school, and I would come home and make wedding cakes at night. Like, it was insane. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't know how I did it. I was a runner at the time, so I'd go out for like a half hour run in between this. I had my golden retriever and stuff like that, and my two cats, and it was a lot. But somehow I did it. Now, I can't say that, it was easy. I do not have that kind of energy at my ripe old age now, but at the time, I was in my mid 20s. So I was like, yeah, I really wanted this. I really, really, really wanted this. I really wanted it to work. So I had a wonderfully supportive boss, and he was so wonderful at letting me go early if I had, a really important job or a really important test or something like that. And things just snowballed, and then I just took more jobs and more jobs and more jobs, and the phone would be ringing. And we didn't have email at the time. I would be sending out these paper menus to people, and I made sure they were beautiful when they opened them. So I really found a way to stand out, and I started doing bridal shows where I met a ton of people that I would get referrals from, and it just kept taking off. And then I was able to quit my dental assisting job, and at the time I was still doing birthday cakes and shower cakes, and I was doing a little bit of catering on the side, and I was still doing the desserts. And then after a while, I was able to quit the wholesale dessert thing. And then after a while after that, I was able to save up money and get update one website. I did another bartering job with another amazing graphic designer that made this killer website that I would have been able to afford otherwise. And that really, like, things just snowballed. And then I joined a referral group, which that's how I made a ton of contacts, and many of those people are my best friends today. That's where I met my best friends in the industry. And then again, like, I never considered what would happen if I failed. That was never even an option. I just kept moving forward, and I kept trusting my intuition. And it was like, yep, I think I'm going to stop doing birthday cakes. And I stopped doing that. And now I just do weddings. And now I have a commercial kitchen. I still don't have a storefront. I don't do anything but weddings. Mondays I pretty much take off. That's an admin day, and I have a regular schedule. I was able to buy my home. I'm since divorced, but which is, we're friendly, so it's all everything worked out fine. But I was able to buy a home with everything that I do just through my wedding cake business. I was able to raise my daughters. I was able to have the independence and get out of, the narrative that I was taught when I was brought up, thinking that, like, I was never going to be able to do anything, because that nobody ever told me that. No one ever told me, like, wow, you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to make this video. I really want you to know that anyone can do this, and it does take a little bit of work. It takes real commitment. But if you really want it, and if you really want something like this to happen for you, and if you want to change your life, and if you want the freedom, I mean, gosh, I can't believe, like, I went to Italy with my best friends. I get to travel. I took my kids to France last year, to Paris, and we ate everything. And I can't, like, literally cannot believe my life. So that's why I wanted to make this video. And that is actually why I teach people the business part of it, because I was so fortunate in having my business education, being able to do that, and also being able to apply it real time in my business. And that is why I started the Wedding Cake Business Academy in the first place. And that's why I coach people. That's why I mentor. So I hope this video inspired you to, if you're on the fence, go ahead and build that business. If I can do it, I promise you anyone can. So if you do want to go further, if you do want to learn more about Wedding Cake Business Academy, I am revising it right now. So it's not available yet, but if you want to be on the wait list, I have my email in the description. You can just email me directly and I'll get you on that list, and we can even have a chat. I love hearing people's stories and people's inspiration. So I hope this inspired you to take that leap. Okay, so thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye.